What is up, guys? Delboy here. I wanted to share my thoughts on Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo Alvarez 2 after watching it again with a clear head. Now, I watched this fight originally after a night out. I came in about 4 o'clock, after having a skinful. I was definitely drunk, to say the least. And I watched this fight on a live stream. And at the time, I scored it 6-all. I felt it was quite an even fight. I felt that Alvarez clearly made improvements. From the first fight, I felt he fought a really good fight. And overall, I felt it was a dead even fight. That could have gone either way. And I've got to say, since I've watched it back, my opinion on that has changed a bit. I still think it was a close fight. I still think it was closer than the first fight. I still feel Alvarez made significant improvements. But watching it again, I scored it 7-5 to Gennady Golovkin. And you're going to say to yourself, well, that's only 1 point different from your original scorecard. Well, yeah, but the difference is, when I watched it first time around, I genuinely felt it could have gone either way. But watching it back, I'll be honest, I think you'd be very hard-pressed, well, I am anyway, to score 7 rounds to Canelo Alvarez. I think it's going to be... I found it very hard to try and justify giving him 7 rounds, which would have got him the victory. And I can't really do it, to be quite honest with you. I can kind of see a stretch at 6-6. I see quite a lot of people out there actually scored it that also. I scored it that originally. And I see a lot of people online scored it 6-all as well. But even 6-all, I think, is being a little bit generous. I think you can make the case. But I came with 7-5 on the second watch. Ultimately, I felt Canelo Alvarez started quite well. I was really impressed with how he was standing in front of Golovkin and taking initiative, working the body extremely well, clearly hurting Golovkin to the body. In the first half of the fight, I felt Alvarez, I felt he looked very good. After 6, I had him 4-2 up, for example. But after the 6th, I felt Golovkin really started to come into his own. He really started to up the work rate. He started to hurt Canelo Alvarez as the fight wore on. Round 10 in particular, I felt, Alvarez was rocked a couple of times. I don't think he was as hurt as some people said. A lot of people were saying he was on the verge of getting knocked out. That's just pure delusion. He wasn't on the verge of getting knocked out. He was hurt, but he took the shots well and he was rolling with the punches, But he was hurt in round 10 and he clearly lost that round. Also, round 12, another contentious round. The judges scored round 12 to Alvarez. I watched that round back and I cannot understand how you can score round 12 to Alvarez. I just can't. I think that is pure... I don't know what to call it, but round 12 was not an Alvarez round as far as I'm concerned. But ultimately, I felt Alvarez done better in the first half of a fight and Golovkin closed the show and I scored it 7 rounds to 5. I will drop my scorecard below so you guys can see. I'll put it in the comments, I think. I still felt it was close. I felt it was closer than the first time, but I felt Golovkin just about edged it. Like I say, I think you could maybe argue a Canelo draw, which was what I originally scored it, but I just don't think you can argue that he won 7 rounds. I just watched it back and I just can't see 7 rounds in it for Canelo. But that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm blind as a bat, who knows. But it was what it was. It was a great fight. I remembered it being a great fight at the time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched it back and again I really enjoyed it. First 6 rounds, bit of a chess match. Alvarez showing us something new. Also, Golovkin was showing us something different. Like one of my commenters said, Golovkin in the first 6 rounds, he was actually fighting a lot more like he used to do in the amateurs. Really reliant on the jab and scoring points that way. And that was actually a very good point. Because I watched some Golovkin fights back from the amateurs after he said that. And I agree with him, actually. So, both guys showed us something a bit different in the first 6 rounds. I felt Canelo won, or he was ahead after 6. Abel Sanchez actually agreed with that because he said to Golovkin, I think after the 6th, that he was losing the fight. I agreed with him. But in the last 6, I felt Golovkin really started to apply pressure and he won the majority of the last 6 rounds as far as I'm concerned. So I scored it 7-5 to Golovkin on the second watch. I saw some people out there score it like 9-3. I can't see it that wide. I can't. I think maybe 8-4 I can see. 7-5 is what I scored it. And some people out there are scoring it 6-6. I really struggle with 7-5 to Alvarez, I'll be honest. But it was definitely closer than the first fight. I do maintain that. I saw some people say that it wasn't as close as the first fight. and this fight was even wider, I don't agree with that, I've got to be honest. And a couple of points I made in my original video, I do still stand by. So although Golovkin was fighting like his old self from the amateurs, I do feel that was partly down to the fact that he was worried about what was coming back from Canelo. I think he really felt those body shots. I maintain that as well. I think he was hurt to the body several times. You know, you saw how he took some of those body shots. He kind of took a second, he kind of took a momentary pause. Sometimes he kind of keeled over a little bit. I did feel the body shots were affecting Golovkin, and that was part of the reason why he was so subdued in the first 6 rounds. I think he did feel Canelo's power. I think he realises this guy's quite heavy-handed, and it kind of put him off applying pressure too early. I think as a result, you know, Golovkin decided to sit back a bit, use the jab, and then apply pressure late on. And ultimately, I felt the pressure late on, you know, just about edged him the fight. I felt it was a close competitive fight, but you know when you get those close fights sometimes where although it's close, it's clear who won. I felt this was one of those fights, and I can see why some people are calling this a robbery. But, you know, what can you do? You know, Canelo, you're not going to beat this guy on the cards unless you beat the shit out of him. Even Mayweather, you know, he clearly won that fight probably 11-1, maybe even 12-0. And, you know, one of the judges scored that a draw. Most of those cards were garbage. So, you know, this was kind of expected. I said in my prediction video that Canelo would win by a controversial decision. And here we are. You know, it's so you can see it coming a mile away, right? And, you know, I felt that Steve Bunt summed this up quite well. He basically said we've had 2 fights, both were competitive, but both fights, the overwhelming majority of people, reporters and fighters thought Golovkin won. But only 1 of 6 judges gave Golovkin a win in both fights. And that smells fishy, that does smell fishy, I'm sorry. But judging in Alvarez fights is dodgy, let's be honest about it. But it is what it is, man. And also, I think one thing that went against Gennady Golovkin was the body language of both fighters. I felt that Golovkin at stages, although he was, you know, utilising the jab, although he won the fight, in my opinion, there were times in this fight where his body language looked off. There were times when he looked like an old man. There were times when it looked like he was passive, you know, in the first 6 rounds especially. You know, Golovkin looked like he was overwhelmed by the occasion, and it looked like Canelo was trying to take the initiative. And I think sometimes, although you may not even be winning rounds, I think sometimes that kind of sways the opinion of judges. You know, Canelo, whatever you say about him, apart from the last sort of 3 rounds, I felt he looked comfortable, even when he was losing rounds. You know, Canelo never really looked out of place. He never looked worried like he was in the first fight. There were stages in the first fight where his body language, to me, was that of a worried man. But in this fight, I didn't get that same sort of feeling. But it is what it is. Canelo got the decision, and we can't do anything about it, you know. It is what it is. I do maintain some of the things I said in the post-fight video, but ultimately, looking back, one thing I do take back, I said in the original post-fight video, I felt it could have gone either way. I can't see a Canelo win, I'll be honest. But what can we do, you know? It was a great fight. I felt it was closer than the first, but ultimately I felt Golovkin just about edged it. That's my opinion. What do you guys think? Peace.